Today on the Riff, Jeremy and Justin finish out the North Point Isms. Honestly, I would have been okay with a part 3, but I guess I'm good with ending it at part 2. I felt the same way about Jurassic Park. 1, great. 2, good. And then they just kept going. We hope today is helpful. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to another episode of The Riff. Here, the soothing tones of Jeremy Johnson and Justin Glenn are here to walk you through your day. I want you to sit back, I want you to relax, and I want you to dive into the world of The Riff, 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 Riff.
Did you do your own effect?
Yeah.
That was pretty sick.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I've been watching some Instagram reels on leveraging your sound effects.
No, that was solid, man.
Yeah.
That was good. Hey, we're gonna continue a conversation we started last week on North Point Isms.
Oof.
I've had so many calls. They're like, "Are you gonna do a part 2?
Word.
Are you gonna do a part 2?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll do. We'll
like,
continue
surely
it."
that's not all your
That's
isms.
not all of them.
We want more.
There's like people with signs. It's like college game day, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I see the Washington State sign out there. I'm like, what are you doing? How many weeks in a row is that? I guess you'd have to really know your trivia of game day, but that's the longest running college flag that's been there. But which is interesting to me because I grew up right near Washington State, and they're but traditionally a terrible football team. But they crush game day.
Crush it.
There's been a couple times where they've FedExed the flag to whatever game day is going, and the flag didn't arrive, and they've had to have a backup plan. But it has been, I think, 20 years running.
What's the backup plan to a flag that doesn't arrive?
You stitch one.
Why wasn't that plan A?
Betty Ross, she has descendants that continue to stitch flags.
No kidding.
Not 100% confident.
Right.
But they make another, and they fly the crimson. They fly the old crimson flag.
Wow.
Yeah, on game day, every episode. Washington State, go Cougs. Actually, I don't like the Cougs, but I'm more of a Zags guy.
Sorry.
No.
No, this is gonna. Okay.
Yeah, I want to be professional on this.
That's cool. That's cool. I was just thinking about all their championships.
Zags?
Yeah. Like the
West Coast Conference?
Well, no, I just
because they've made 27 straight conference championship games.
I think like the national ones, like the big boys. You know, the dance. That's what they call it. And I can't seem to think of any.
No, they've been in a couple.
Yeah, no, I just can't think of any. They like.
They played.
Like
they played North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then they played Baylor.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, that was on my birthday. We had a big old party. And I had to kick everyone out of my house.
Yeah, you did. You actually were like, all right.
Turns out one of our staff, and I don't want to out them, had money on Baylor and dares to come into my house on championship night when they're playing the Zags with money. Little Snickers from Andy Thornton as he's sitting there eating the pizza I provided while he lays money on Baylor.
This is a good night for him. It was a good night for him.
Yeah.
He got pizza, got paid. It was great, man. It was a good one. It was a good one.
All right.
Okay, isms.
Yes. Isms.
All right. We're just going to start
These
where
are
we
the
left off.
things, the isms, that we try and make, we're trying to cultivate culture. And so these are the things that we put in writing that we hope we experience at North Point.
That's right. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is going to be part two.
Yeah, part deuce.
This is Close the Loop.
Side note.
No.
I got to say, most movies, the sequel, Downhill, not true with this podcast.
I'd say so. I'd say this one, I'm thinking Back to the Future. I like that sequel.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you get to 3 with a Western?
I love the whole trilogy, honestly.
No, that's one
and
of
if
the
this becomes a trilogy, what a dream.
If we keep talking
it
like
will
this,
become
it's going to be a trilogy. So let's get going. Let's get going.
All right. Close the loop. Avoid repeated system failures. Chase the solution down and close the loop.
Yeah. I mean, that's a ism that's focused specifically on our working relationships. Meaning always follow up with resolution to what we're talking about. So if someone is saying, hey, did we get the kids' curriculum supplies? We need to make sure that we have those for the weekend. So it's kind of a suggestion, commandment, like, hey, let's make sure it happens. Closing the loop is whoever is receiving that, when they do that, say, hey, just confirming it's closed, so we can park that mental deal. Another thing to do is close the loop is the whole point is to give all the important information in as few lines of communication as possible. So if it's like, hey, we should talk about this upcoming event, send. Then you say, yeah, that would be a great idea. I agree. Send. Then I'm like, hey, what are some typical good days for you that work? Send. And all of a sudden now we can have like a ping pong rally of 6, 7 different responses and say, instead of closing the loop would say, hey, I'd like to talk about this event. I'm available Monday or Wednesday during these times. Which of those works best for you? Boom. And now all of a sudden we can go, what we're trying to do is just be efficient. So, yeah,
I like that one.
Close the loop.
I like that
and
one.
Finish things, because we always want to make sure. We've all worked in environments where we're like, hey, I know we talked about this before. Did we ever do anything about it? Otherwise, I've been in a staff position before. This is kind of a funny one. Is we had somebody. This is in a different state, but it was working at a church. And in staff meeting, we had weekly staff meetings, and there was this one issue. Someone was going to the bathroom in an upstairs bathroom at our church facility, and they were never flushing. And so it became new business under the new business for our agenda. It became something that we would talk about every week in staff. It would come up. And typically it would be facilities staff would say, it happened again. Someone's not flushing in the upstairs. And we would laugh about it. We'd giggle. We'd talk about it. We'd even guess maybe who we think it might be. We would have descriptions, almost flowcharts of this. But we would never talk about what to do. So then the next week, we'd get done with all of our old business, and then we'd get to new business, and the staff would say, hey, yeah, it happened again. And we would do this every week. And so finally, we're like, what are we going to do about this? Like, do we spy? Do we put up cameras? We've got, so what happened is they put up signs, please flush the toilet when you're done. I'm thinking, I don't know if someone's not flushing. I mean, we're talking about a habitual offender. And we're thinking, is this person not flushing because they don't understand how it works? And a sign is now, and so close the loop. Every time when I write down close the loop, I'm thinking about that situation. Like, we spent probably 3 months talking about it every week instead of just dealing with it.
Did you find him?
Oh, we found the person. We found the perpetrator. The problem was they were flushing. It was the volume. So, it's not their issue. I know that when I say that, it sounds like I'm saying it's their issue. It's not. It's our limited plumbing supplies. So what we had to do is get a different size tubing. And their sewer system, like no joke, their sewer system and where they lived couldn't handle it. And so they looked forward to Sundays going up and using it. Well, it was a pleasant environment. It smelled amazing prior to your visit in there. And but unfortunately, even though the environment looked better, our current plumbing situation wasn't even allowing this to be to close the loop. And so we remedied that. So, but yeah,
just close the loop, man.
Yeah, there will be a trilogy.
Right there. That is, yeah.
If this, I am so glad you're tuning in today.
Oh.
But really, the truth is, if we talk about challenges, we're not doing anything about it. And sometimes in leadership, we think, we've addressed it because we've addressed it. You haven't done anything. Addressing something isn't solving something. You've got to figure out, what are we doing to solve this? Let's figure out the solution. Let's close the loop. Otherwise, you're going to keep talking about it.
It's great.
Yeah, it's
all right,
really
I'm going to close the loop on that one. I'm closing the loop on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go to the next. Leaders can't afford a bad day, especially on a bad day, or embrace the suck and land the plane. We actually did an entire podcast episode on this one.
Yeah.
That's that, right?
Yeah.
It's
In a nutshell, it doesn't mean you're not going to have bad days.
Right.
It just means when you're having a bad day, you still have to understand the gravity of your bad day, and it's not about being fake. It's just about being focused on the purpose and saying, okay, what do I have to do today during my personal bad day to be able to make sure I don't magnify it into people that don't need this. And if it's a corporate bad day, what do I have to do? I need to show up with my most focused vision on this day, and that's what I'm bored to lead. Again, we have a whole episode on
Yeah, and it's great. Don't be fake, be focused, right? It's that whole thing.
Yep.
It's that whole idea. Next one, just do it. Oh, this is a good one. All right. Just like we teach on the weekends, learning is great, but without application, it means nothing. You're going to learn a lot from books, seminars, teachings, conferences, but it's not about how much you learn. It's about how do you apply it?
Yeah, great example of how we would want to apply this is when someone reads a book, instead of saying, hey man, I read this book, it was a great book. It's like, okay, what are 1, 2, 3, 4 things out of that? What are a couple bullet points out of that you are going to do about it? One of the things I like to do is try and teach on it as soon as possible because it forces me to contextualize this. Well, actually, when I'm reading, I'm contextualizing it, and then I get excited about I want to communicate this. But when you contextualize it and say, okay, how can what I just learned be applied right away? And I feel like there's a short shelf life of application from a good idea. Otherwise, it just becomes a good idea and then it's theory. And so we just want to be practitioners, not just theorizers.
I love that one.
Yeah. So like, what do you do when you read a book? I mean, one side note, Justin Glenn is one of the, I would say you've read most of the books I think of all the people that I talk to. I feel like you've probably read that book, and you've got a recall. Way more than for me. I totally rely on notes, and when I read a book, I feel like you can pull out a couple thoughts, quotes, ideas, not only from a book, or if you recognize a challenge, you can pull that. How does that happen?
I don't take notes.
Okay.
I also don't know the book in full.
Okay.
So I think I pull like 2% out of every book I read. So I do reread books often.
I think it's
reread.
Yeah.
Because I know that the next time that I read it, it's a completely different lens, especially theology books. Yeah. Like those are very eye-opening to me, where I'm like, whoa, I didn't. So that helps me. That helps me actually put that into my brain in different ways, and then I can compartmentalize all of that stuff. So then when something does come up or somebody says something and we walk through something, just small little pieces will come up. But the whole book I definitely don't have in my brain. But there is always something with any book I read, and some are more. I have like the 5 top books I know in and out. Like I love those 5. Everything else is kind of hit and miss, right?
Can we play a game?
So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you an author.
Oh my goodness.
Or a book.
This is gonna be tough.
See if you have any thought that comes to you. James Clear, Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. I think of the first story in the book and how he walks through the cycling team, but little note at the bottom of the page gives you a little website because it wasn't Atomic Habits that helped that cycling team. It was doping.
Ooh.
Yeah. So they were using steroids. So it's a pretty fun opening.
You were interested enough to like dive into the footnote.
Oh, for sure. Because I'm like, this is such a fascinating story, and I love what it's saying. What's that footnote? So then I look it up. I'm like, oh, that's an important piece to the puzzle.
Y'all see what I'm talking about. How about this one? Jocko. Anything from Jocko?
Any and everything. That's one of my top 5s. Extreme ownership.
Give me something from Extreme Ownership.
So honestly, to own everything, but in an extreme way. He walks through, I don't know if you've ever read that book, but he walks through a war story and then
watch the movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan. Yep.
Oh. And then takes a business principle and marries them together. And it's him and Leif Babin. I think that's how you say it. Babin.
I think it's Leif.
Leif Babin.
Leif Babin.
And they write it together. But it really is this idea of extreme ownership. And I thought I always owned things. But it talks a lot about, as a leader, when you own something, it's a different type of ownership because you're taking responsibility for it. So it's not necessarily like, oh, that's on me, that's my fault. And like this, poor, it's like, no, it's my responsibility to make sure that that person is set up to win. Yeah. So if something doesn't happen on the battlefield for them in their instance, it's on the leader of that section, platoon. I don't know how I wasn't in the military, right? Yeah. But I'm fascinated by it. He does the same thing in business. And it is extreme. And it's called extreme because it really is like every single thing. Take it personal. Like that's on you as the leader. No bad teams, only bad leaders.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say I like that, but I don't like that.
He talks about boat crews. He talks about 2 different SEAL boat crews and about how they moved the leader from one boat crew to another, and it completely changed the boat crew.
Yeah.
And the boat crew never changed. It was just the leader that gave them the direction and made them believe that they were actually a good boat crew. It's just a great book. One of my top 5.
Love it. One last one, Incident Waiting to Happen. What are any takeaways from that one?
Well, I think
by Jeremy Johnson.
Honestly, one of the best out of that is No Ringy, No Dingy. Right? So when I read chapter 5, I think have I lived this way? Right? Before I met No Ringy, No Dingy. I mean, and even now, like it talks about commitment in a way that I've never thought about it.
So that when it comes to just do it is a just don't do it. Right? Unless, so full circle. So application, whether you're hearing something, reading something, watching something, observing something, we want to be lifelong learners, but we want to be real-time practitioners. So
I love it. Take a hike. Weekend and event parking. We save the best parking spaces for the guests. So park in the back or the most inconvenient area of the lot.
Asterisk, not on Saturday nights. Parallel park in the front, so people are like, "What's going on there?" No, the whole point there is, come on, man. Let's hoof it. Let's hike. So, for us, it's Springfield campus. It's gravel primarily, or behind the dumpster. Take the most, take the least attractive spots to park, so that we can save the best spots. Nixa, a lot of our team will park up on the berm. And so we just invite people to do that. Just as a conscious way to think it's not about us, right? We don't have like reserved for pastors parking, those kind of things here, which is a little disappointing. I thought when I came here, I thought surely they've got that, right? No. It's just doing that when it's an issue.
Good. Give the credit, take the blame when something that your team did rocks. Thank and recognize the people that made it happen instead of taking the praise for ourselves. What gets rewarded gets repeated. On the flip side, when something does not go as planned, and it will happen, take responsibility and come up with a solution for making it better next time. I mean, this is extreme ownership right here.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly what you just talked about.
Yep.
Also, closing the loop too on one of the things we do is hot, not next, and one of the things that we want to do, it makes a good difference. Is that
stop? That's an ism.
We'll get to it.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Oh my golly.
So bottom line, one example of doing this is there is nothing that any of our staff do. Probably very little, if any, that any of our staff do that's of significance to our mission that they pull off just on their own, right? And so by nature of what we do is we are working with a team of people, of volunteers, who believe in the mission. And so one of the most degrading things we can ever do to someone who's invested in our mission is thank them for serving us. They're not serving us. We are serving the mission. They are serving the mission. If for some reason we have an opportunity to serve the mission and do it as a role, as a part-time or a full-time staff, that's great, but it doesn't validate us serving the mission. The mission is valuable. And so whatever we do, whether we're teaching a classroom of kids during the week and coming in as a volunteer to serve, whether we are running production at a campus and that's our job, whatever we do, it's all about mission-centric, and let's tie the purpose, tie the product to the volunteers who are serving it. So
it's great.
Yep.
Can I? Constant and never-ending
improvement. It's an acronym.
It is.
CANEI constant and never-ending improvement. And we've done a whole podcast on this, can I? So I'll hit the hot not next is one of the things all staff do every week at the end of the work week is what are the things that are hot not next? And it's not like a sermon review because we have that. That's part of our can I too, but that's separate. But the role is, hey, what's something that is helping me move the needle in this area of ministry that I'm overseeing right now? So all of us have a different piece of the pie of what we're trying to paint. And so what happened in the last 7 days that is helping, that's hot, and be specific. What is a challenge? That's a not. And what's the suggested solution for that challenge, right? Let's close the loop on these things. Mm-hmm. What's next? Not like, it looks like we have another Sunday coming next week. It's not that. It's what are some things that are really important to my area of ministry that are looming that I'm focused on? And then any questions. So if we do that every week, hopefully from anywhere, their team lead could look at this and get a pulse of that part of the organization. What's working, what's not working, and what are the proposed solutions? What's coming up next? And that allows us to not have to spend 30 minutes playing catch up and saying, hey, what worked? It's just, hey, let me help you move the needle in the knots. Let me help identify why this is working, all those kind of things.
That's great. I think you've led the way in this in an incredible way. Every speaker that we have that's in-house, on Saturday night, we all sit down, and it is probably my favorite thing you do, because it shows vulnerability, it shows leadership, and it's you just sitting down and saying, this is what I wanted to get out of tonight. This is what I tried to communicate, make it better.
Yeah.
It's just such a refreshing moment. And you take the feedback. You use some of it, you don't use some of it. And everybody in the room, it's just built this culture of health, in my opinion. And it makes it better. No matter who is speaking from Saturday to Sunday, you see a change in that. And you see just a community pouring into the speaker. So, and I know that has to be a personal thing as you craft a message together. It's an art form. You take it, you present it, and then you're like, what'd you think? That's got it. Right. So I love that aspect of you, and you've led this part well.
Part of that too is any culture that's going to have can I is it's important that we have a critical eye, not a critical heart, right? And that's something that could be a bumper sticker, but it's really important. Is I want to be able to trust that what you're going to speak into is vision-centric. So what were we trying to accomplish in this event, in this message, on this platform? What were we trying to accomplish? Now, hold it loosely, speak into it. And if you know the vision, speak into it. And if it's a critical heart, like, man, I just don't believe you believe in the vision, or I don't believe, it's a personal deal. Now, good leaders, you just got to, spit out the bones if that happens. Mm-hmm. But when we have a room filled with people, or a few people that you can have speak into your life on that, that's so helpful. And so I hope everybody has a community of people in any area, whether it's business, whether it's family, whether it's finances, where you can say, hey, can you speak into this? Because I want to have constant and never-ending improvement.
And I think that goes right along with open hands.
Yeah.
So that is another ism. You can't be flexible and take hold of what is best for the team if you have your hands tightly wrapped around your idea or your agenda, hold the mission tight. Everything else, open hands.
Yeah. And I think that's important is let's hold, and we talk about that in a lot of venues, whether it's a role, whether it's a job, whether it is a program. The most important thing for us is that the mission of North Point goes forward. We also look back we can look in the past, and we could laugh about an organization that wouldn't grow and adapt. People that hung on too long to an idea or to a position, to a role. And we would never want to be that. North Point's never been that. And it's funny looking back. It's not as funny looking forward, because we got to say, hey, whatever it takes, whenever it takes, whether it's the way we live out this value, whether it's this program, this role, loose hands.
There's a great podcast that Donald Miller did years back. He does StoryBrand. He does Marketing Made Simple. coach builder, all that kind of stuff. He had the Canlis brothers on.
Yes,
Man.
a Seattle restaurant.
Yeah, they're just incredible. And they talk about values, and they talk about your values aren't really values unless they actually cost you something. And this is one of them, right? Like if we're really going to have open hands, hopefully there's going to be moments that you're like, that cost us, right? But that's the value. I think of there have been a couple of organizations and churches that have hired different like team members from North Point to those spaces. And they will always call, they're very respectful of like, hey, is it cool if we...
They don't always call.
They don't always call.
Some organizations do.
Some. But a lot of them do. And the conversation is, hey, we wouldn't want to go through this if this is going to be a weird thing for you.
Right.
And what's been awesome on my side of the table with how you lead is I've like genuinely been able to say, hey, listen, whatever is best for the person on our team is ultimately best for the church.
Yes.
So if that move is going to be a good move for their family and they're going to bring value to your organization, I bless it. And I pray for incredible things in the future for them and for you.
Yeah.
And that cost us that employee. That cost us that team member. That cost us that relationship, friendship, because now they moved, right? Like, and it hurts, but ultimately, like, that's open hands. And yeah, we can hold on to it tighter and they could work here for another year and we could have, but it's not healthy. Like just open your hands.
Yeah. You guilt people into, loyalty and whatnot. And what we want to do is we try to create the kind of culture that makes it attractive to stay. We want to center people around a vision that we're confident the vision speaks for itself and it's meaningful. We'd love to pay people enough where that it's comfortable, right? All these different elements when it comes to hiring. Ultimately, if we create the right environment for staff, then if there's something that to them that they feel like they're stepping out, that we could say it must be God. It must be a great fit because it's not because of the culture. It's not because of, this, that, or the other. And so we try and create that kind of culture and release that. The truth is there's been times probably in the history of my leadership, there's been times people probably took a job, not because it was a dream job, because they felt theirs wasn't. And I get that. And that's probably true at some level, any season of some roles, but if those of us who are helping lead teams think through this, let's create an attractive environment. Let's keep people neck deep focused on the mission that they joined to be in the first place. Then when it comes to the time, that's why it's easy to open hands. You're like, well, great. You were a blessing when you were here. Go for it.
Yeah. It's a good one. We got 3 more. We're going to get through this.
We're going to hit it.
We're going to do this.
We're going to hit it. I feel like you just warned me to not battle.
No. I'm just, it wasn't a passive aggressive thing. It was more aggressive, not really passive. Yeah, it was just kind of come prepared. When you come to staff meetings, have everything needed, right? When you come to a meeting without it, it communicates that you're surprised there are next steps, which means the meeting was a waste of time.
Yeah. And this is 100% just my personal insecurities, probably. I'm like, the last thing I want to do when I come to a meeting, we used to do this. This might be current. I haven't noticed the last couple of staff meetings, so I could say this and no one's on the hook, okay? The most annoying thing is when we get to a staff meeting, it's a training time, and you're like, hey, here's 4 things that we can da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to share. And then if someone's slouching back and they look and they're like, and someone's like, are we going to need pens? I got one. I'm going to run to the storage unit. There's a bucket of pens. Do we got paper? And I'm thinking like you showed up to a meeting. You are shocked that we're going to have anything we want to write down and grow from today. Like it was like a surprise party. And so part of that is, one, that'll take the wind out of the old sails of Jeremy, but of anyone who's leading. But secondly, I want to build that culture, and I get it. It's not always we have pens and paper. We got phones. We got all types of things that are probably more practical. But I want us to have the posture of we are here to feed each other, encourage each other, remind each other's vision, and when it's time to grow, game on. Okay. Otherwise, we're just chuck-a-locking in a meeting. And while it is fun and rich, it's probably not efficient. So, yeah, that's what that is.
That's funny. All right.
So
I don't take notes. Does that?
I know you don't take notes.
No, I never look for
but,
pens.
if you don't take notes for Jocko and you don't take notes for instant waiting to happen, and you can still have total recall.
I did take that. And however, I do take notes later on.
I will say I've never felt for a second that you were like, what?
What is he doing? What is he doing?
What are we doing?
I say I don't take notes. I do jot them down afterwards, though. Ooh. So that's another way to have a memory. Jim Quick, do you know Jim Quick? This guy's crazy.
I don't.
Oh my gosh. You need to listen to him. If you're listening to this, you need to just stop right now. Well, I don't stop right now. We got like 2 more.
Wow. That's almost a value comparison.
I don't want to, but it's, he's incredible. But he's all about memory and all about like brain games and activity and how to like make both sides of the brain speak to one another and how to take notes in ways. It's crazy. So I take notes later. So if something's sticking in my mind, that's when I take the note. Because there's obviously something resonating with me about it that I can't get out, so I don't want to let it go. So then I take that note and then I expand on that, which is helpful on how
I'm a rabid note taker. I like to scratch it out.
Did you say a rabbit note taker?
Well, I know, but ironic you would bring that up.
Yeah, no.
Because I take a lot of notes on rabbits, but I'm a rabid.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it doesn't matter how you take notes because for me, I will have paper trail everywhere of stuff. But then what I like to do is gather them and try and put them in my computer. But for some reason, for me, that helps me. But anyway, let's go.
It.
2 more.
Got it.
Yeah,
it's horrible to send a message on Basecamp or whatever you're using and just hope someone reads it. When you read something, boost got it, or some kind of thumb, or fire, or a smile emoji. Just let people know that you see what they write.
So have you ever wondered, are we control freaks? This is our work isms. I would hate to think that we're control freaks, but we're certainly very conscious of the culture we're trying to create. Is what doesn't work for us is nebulous thinking. And to wonder, are you working on that project? Did that make sense what I was communicating? And so what we want to do is make it as clear as possible. Here's how you win here. When we talk about something, when we assign something, when we delegate something, got it. And then we can park that mental car. If you don't got it, we wonder, do you got it? And we're going to have 6. Hey, did you get that? Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, I got that. Why are you asking? We never said you got it. Oh, I have to say I got it? It's just a courtesy thing. It's helpful. Yeah.
So when I throw you a pass, catch it. Yeah. You got it.
And then say, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
great.
I got it. You got it. I got it.
All right, last one. We're here. We did it.
All right.
Give them 5. I think this is so helpful if you're listening and you volunteer in any capacity or you work with anybody in any capacity. These 5 questions are, for me, when I came to North Point and you brought these and we started talking about how do you rock the lobby, these 5 questions were a game changer for me.
Yeah.
I worked in production, which was a pretty behind the scenes situation. So I would have a lot of lobby time. So I'm like, what? This is weird. These 5 questions helped.
Yeah.
100%. Let's walk through them. So 5 questions. Okay. 5 questions. You give them 5. Anybody that you see, it's awkward to have a conversation with a stranger, especially at a church. You gave 5 questions. One of them is, how long have you been coming here?
Yep. So, and these aren't like verbatim, though we do want to memorize them, but as a team. And then even if you're working in connections, I think it's helpful. But like you said, the first thing is, how long have you been coming around here? And I'm going to use that question probably up to 20, 25 times on a weekend in the lobby. Because if I say, hey, is this your first time? And they're like, no, I've been coming here 3 years. You did my daughter's wedding. And all of a sudden, like, well, great. Enjoy your next church. And so, I've been there. And so it's like, well, how long have you been around here? And then if they're like, this is my first time, I'm like today? Wow. All of a sudden that leads me into, so if it is their first time, then it leads me into an excitement of, that's so cool. And then, how did you connect around here? So or they're like, yeah, how long you been around here? They're like, I've been around here 6 years. Awesome. Now, I was wondering, how did you connect here for the very first time? Did you know somebody? Was it Yellow Pages? And so then it's, have you ever been anything like this before? right? Like, and I don't say, have you ever been to church before? Which church? Where was it? Who was their pastor? Why'd you leave? Okay, but I am interested. So I say, have you ever been to anything like this before? And then a lot of times they'll say, like, what do you mean like this? Like church? I'll be like, well, yeah, like church or anything like this church. And then let them say, well, I've been to church, but nothing like this. Or like, oh, totally. I've gone to First Baptist of this town for 17 years and I just moved to town. Okay, cool. It tells me a lot about you. If you're like, well, and I hear this every weekend, I'm church shopping. I mean, this is a unique town, right? I'm church shopping. Oh, really? Oh, what are you shopping from? Right? What leads you to your shopping journey? And I know, and they might say, I just didn't like the pastor didn't talk about this politician enough. Oh, cool. And it's certainly not going to sway what I say, but it instantly tell you, oh, okay. And I'll say, hey, you know what's interesting? I can help direct them to how they're going to find our mission to be valuable, or to quickly say, hey, I got to tell you, you might be even more frustrated here. Here's why, and in a nice way. But it'll tell me like this last week, it has now been a week and a half. I met someone in the lobby. Hey, is our first time here. How'd you hear about us? Oh, we Googled. And then we watched Next. And I'm like, whoa, walk me through this. We watched Next online, and we watched a couple services online. And this is first. Have you ever been anything like this? The gal's like, yeah, I've been to. I used to work at a church. Is what we got to in the conversation. The guy says, my first time ever at a Christian gathering. And so we had phenomenal conversation, and it was great, and able to be like, okay, I know what the stakes are today, and to be able to say, man, I just hope today is helpful. And when there's so many great churches, and if this is one of them that helps you, that's great. Glad you're here. So then the last one, or the fourth one is, have you connected with anything? And that's a group serving. And then the fifth one would be, can I help you get connected? Mm-hmm. So maybe they're like, hey, not that you have to go through all five, but that's the journey to be able to not only get to know somebody's story, position yourself to be able to ask questions and learn about them. Also position yourself to help figure out what their next step is. My goal is not on, if I hear, man, this is my first time here. Okay, can I help you to get in a group today? If not, can I help you serve? Because that's really important to us. I'm not going to try and get you through all five. Those 5 questions are a pathway where I can jump off any time that is focused on the person who's there and positions me as someone who can be, like what you said, a guide on their journey. What is it you're looking for? How can I help you? And not afraid to be like, oh, yeah, maybe not. Like if someone says, I'm here, someone said here, the teaching's good, and I've been at a church at this place for a different place for 17 years, and I'm just here to check it out. I'd be like, cool, great to have you. And I go on to the next one. Mm-hmm. Not because I don't value you, because I've just got 10 minutes before every service to find as many people who are our target as possible. And there's a lot of people who aren't our target that might help us hit the mission. But for me, I'm like, high five, glad you're here. Hope you like the teaching. I'm not even sure I do. But let me, you know what I'm saying? I'm not like campaigning, well, oh yeah, you like expository or topical, right? Because we have a mix of both. Whatever, man.
All right. How long have you been coming? What brought you?
11.5 years.
You ever been to
John
anything?
J. Wilson.
Have you ever been able to connect or find community, or how can I help?
I'm hopeful.
That's the 5 questions, man. That's it. We did it. Isms.
Boom. Isms. Part 2.
We don't even need a part 3.
Okay. I'm excited about our next week, though. I've already got it in the hopper. I know it's a riff, but I thought about it in advance.
Whoa. That's not really a riff.
Next week. Let's just say this. It's the tribute to Justin Glenn.
Oh, I'll be there.
That's all I've said.
I will be there. Is there cake?
No, we're going to talk about you, not to you.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.